Hey, Wolfpack fans, Marcy Bullock coming to you in 2021 with a new presentation. This will be about 10 minutes long. It'll be part one of two, which will be creating your work life boundaries using assessment to align values with action. In this two-part series, you're going to be completing an assessment that helps you to determine your values when it comes to integrating your work life and your personal life. Many of you are students right now, and you're going to be transitioning to the professional world. And it's going to be important for you to intentionally make decisions so that you sleep well at night. So, in this two-part webinar, YouTube, we're going to discuss the importance of values based advising as we advise you on how to make work life integration roles and also to learn how to use this work-life integration quiz that we designed last summer. So I'd love to start with this Venn diagram, students, get you thinking about the sweet spot. And when I say the sweet spot, I mean the intersection of your abilities, passions, and values. And sometimes I even change the word passions to curiosity because passion tends to overwhelm people just a little bit and they think, wait a minute, everybody has a passion except for me. So, what are you curious about when you're just walking in nature? What problems do you want to solve? That relates to your interests, your motivation. It also helps you think about when time flies by. When you just notice all of a sudden the day is gone, what were you doing that you were really interested in? That's the passions red circle. On the left, we have your abilities circle, which is your skills, your experiences, all the internships and co ops you've done, all the training, the competencies that you have. And we have a separate video on my YouTube channel about career competencies. If you haven't watched that yet, you can see the top 10 competencies that employers are seeking, and you can determine which ones you feel very confident in and which ones you want to develop over your time at NC State University. Also, within abilities, we see your personality. Are you more outgoing, liking to be around people, or do you really prefer time for reflection? That's all part of who you are. And then on the bottom, we have values, which we're going to spend a little bit of time on in this video series, thinking about what is important to you. Is it important for you to, let's say, improve society, make money? Do you have a cause that you really care about? And when you think about your personal life, maybe family things, maybe you want to run a marathon, whatever is important to you outside of your professional identity, that's also a value. Now, when we take all three of these circle students and we look at the intersection in the middle, that's where the labor market needs you to do it. The labor market has a job available for you. And as we know now, during the economic downturn, during this global pandemic, it's important for us to think about where the jobs are. And we have a separate YouTube on networking and finding jobs during the global pandemic, as well as our podcast, which is called Wolfpack Career Chats, that you can find on iTunes or Spotify. And we have some great episodes there on where are the jobs during the pandemic, because we've seen, I think, over 11,000 companies coming to virtual career fairs. So jobs are out there. So the sweet spot, friends, is where you find that intersection between what you love to do, what you're good at doing, and what's important to you. So let's think about framing a house right now. Let's build a house. We've got a foundation, we've got a frame, we've got furniture, we've got paint on the walls, and this is an analogy that I want to use to help you to think about that value circle on that Venn diagram. So, values, when you start to build your house, you have to have a foundation. You have to have a concrete slab, or there would be nothing to hold your house up. And this is why in values, I call your foundational values your deal breakers. You literally cannot live without these values. And I'm going to give you a slide where you're going to pick your top 6 foundational values. I'm only going to let you pick 6. That means you cannot live without them. And you have to check to ensure these values are aligned with your actions every day so that you'll be in flow. Next are your core values. So when we looked at that house, and in my background today on this video, you can see, I think, the library behind me on the brickyard, but someone built that and they had to have framing. They had to have drywall. So when you build a building, it holds your house up. You need these almost as much as your foundational values, but you could survive, right, on the slab. You don't have to have the walls around you, although they make your life really nice. Next are your minor values. That might be called your furniture, your paint on the wall, your carpet, your lamps, all that good stuff makes your life really comfortable. So, minor values enhance your life a great deal, but they are not essential. And you could function by sleeping on the floor if you had to. The drywall and the roof is already there over your head. Finally, the last one I want you to think about, students, is imaginary values. These are values that you think are important. You say, oh, it's really important for me to, let's say, scroll on my phone and look at what everybody else is doing on social media. But when I finish doing that, I kind of feel rotten. I don't feel good about myself. I feel like everybody's leading a better life than I am. Well, then I probably need to cut that value out. If I say that health is a foundational value and living in a strong body and feeling good and like I have strong well-being, I'm probably not going to want to eat a dozen donuts, even though imaginary, I think that's going to be good for me. So I tell people it's like the paint on the wall. You think maybe you're going to love the beige, then you get it up and you go, ooh, I really don't love that. Those are the 4 kinds of values. And on the next slide, it's going to be important for you to look at these values. And I'm going to let you pick 3 foundational values. That is, like I said, that concrete slab, and 3 core values. So just take a moment on this slide to pick your top 3 and to pick your second 3. And this is going to actually help us when we get into our assessment in just a moment. So take a look at these. Again, when I was saying imaginary values, if you see something up here, like something that's taking away from something that's really important, like you think, oh, money is so important to me. But yet, there's a lot of data that shows, you've probably heard it sounds cheesy that money doesn't buy happiness. But when people buy the lottery, they actually end up really depressed after they get all that money. That could be determined an imaginary value. So pause this now to get your top 6 values before we go on. All right, now, friends, we are at the point where we're going to be moving into the work life quiz. Now, the work life quiz is something that my graduate assistant, Alex Raschuti, and I developed last summer during the time when we were all quarantined. And actually, in class one day, I came up with a bunch of these scenarios because I was sharing with my class real things that had happened in my 30-year career. So when I was newly married and had no kids, and when I was a mother, and when I was caring for elderly relatives, there's 3 distinct phases of your career path that you're going to get a chance to see in a minute. And when I was designing this quiz, I actually came up with scenarios from my real life. So you're going to look at this scenario now and then come in to part 2 of this video series, which shows you the real quiz. And then we'll interpret it for you and see if you're an integrator, a separator, a cycler, a work first, a family first, personal first, or any combination of those. So see you in part 2, Wolfpack fans.